I heard my son-in-law laugh. Then he said it. I told you, he's just a temporary wallet. The room burst into laughter. Loud. Confident. Cruel. My daughter didn't stop him. I stood outside the door, holding the keys to the place I had paid for. Every table. Every light. Every bottle of wine. Mine. And inside, they were celebrating me like I was already gone. But before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. Your support really helps this channel grow. Because what I did next. Shut down their entire business before the night was over. My name is Alexander Volkov. I'm 58 years old. For more than 30 years, I built one of the most successful construction companies in my region. I know how structures stand. And I know exactly what makes them collapse. That night, I wasn't just hearing an insult. I was hearing the exact moment everything broke. And once something breaks, it's only a matter of time before it falls. I didn't walk in right away. I stood there for a few seconds longer than I should have. Listening. Not just to the laughter. But to the tone. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't a bad joke. It was comfortable. Like they had said things like this before. That was the first thing that felt wrong. I opened the door slowly. The music was loud. Glasses clinked. People smiled. The perfect opening night. My daughter saw me first. Her smile froze for a fraction of a second, then returned. Too fast. Too practiced. Dad. You made it, she said, walking toward me, arms open. She hugged me. Lightly. Like you hug someone you don't want to touch for too long. I thought you might be late, she added. I nodded. I had to make sure everything was in place, I said. Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. Then she stepped aside. Everyone's been asking about you, she said. That was a lie. I could feel it. No one had been asking. They had been talking. I walked deeper into the room. The smell hit me first, expensive food, imported wine. Everything exactly the way I approved it. Because I paid for it. Because I designed it. Because without me, none of this existed. And yet, as I moved through the crowd, I felt like a guest. No. Not even a guest. Like an outsider. People greeted me. But their eyes didn't stay. They moved past me too quickly. Like they already knew something I didn't. Then I saw him. Igor. Standing near the bar. Relaxed. Confident. Holding a glass like he owned the place. When his eyes met mine. He didn't look surprised. That was the second thing that felt wrong. He walked over slowly. Alexander, he said, smiling. Not warmly. Politely. Like you greet someone important, but temporary. You're just in time, he added. For what? I asked. His smile widened slightly. For the real celebration. Something in his voice didn't sit right. Not excitement. Expectation. I looked around again. The decorations were perfect. Too perfect. Nothing out of place. Not even a single detail missed. But suddenly, it didn't feel like my project anymore. It felt prepared. Like a stage. Like something already set in motion. I hope everything meets your expectations, Igor said, glancing around. I followed his. Then back to him. It does, I said calmly. But I get the feeling this isn't really about me. He chuckled. Low. Controlled. Come on, Alexander, he said. You've done enough already. Enough. That word stuck. Not, thank you. Not, we appreciate it. Enough. Like I had reached my limit. Like my role was over. And suddenly, the conversation outside replayed in my head. Temporary wallet. I watched him take a sip of his drink. Completely at ease. No tension. No guilt. That's when the third thing clicked. He wasn't worried about me hearing it. Because he didn't think it mattered. Because in his mind, I was already out of the equation. I didn't respond. I just nodded slightly and stepped away. I needed to see more. Not react. Not yet. Across the room, I noticed a group gathered near one of the tables. Talking quietly. When I approached, the conversation stopped. Immediately. Too quickly. Someone forced a smile. Great place, one of them said. Really impressive. I nodded. Thank you. But they weren't looking at me anymore. They were looking at each other. Like they were checking something. Confirming something. I stepped back again. And that feeling grew stronger. This wasn't just disrespect. This wasn't just a bad joke. Something else was happening. Something behind the scenes. Something already decided. And for the first time that night, I realized I might not be the one in control here. At least. Not yet. I slowed down. When something feels wrong, rushing only hides it. So I started watching. Not the decorations. Not the food. People. Patterns. Who talks to whom? Who avoids eye contact? Who looks at Igor before answering? It didn't take long. Everything revolved around him. Not me. That shouldn't have been possible. Not in a place I built. Not at an opening I financed. And yet, it was obvious. I moved toward the bar again. Two men stood there, speaking in low voices. After tonight it won't matter, one of them said. They stopped the moment they saw me. Too late. I caught that line. After tonight. Won't matter. I ordered a drink. Didn't touch it. Just stood there, letting the silence stretch. One of them cleared his throat. Beautiful place, he said. The second one nodded too quickly. Yeah, really, impressive investment. Investment. Not gift. Not support. Investment. I looked at them. Calm. Interesting choice of words, I said. They exchanged a glance. One of them forced a smile. Well, you know how business is. I held his gaze. Yes, I said quietly. I do. They left within seconds. Didn't even finish their drinks. That was new. People don't walk away from money. Unless they think that money is already gone. I turned slightly and looked across the room. My daughter was speaking to someone near the entrance. Smiling again. But this time I noticed something different. Her eyes kept moving. Not random. Checking. Watching. Like she was waiting for something to happen. Or for someone to arrive. Then I saw Igor again. He wasn't with guests anymore. He stood near a small group at the far table. 3 people. 2 men in suits. 1 woman with a folder in her hands. A folder. At a restaurant opening. That didn't belong. I moved closer. Not directly. Slowly. Carefully. Close enough to hear, not enough to be obvious. Documents are ready, the woman said quietly. Igor nodded. Good, he replied. Once it's signed, we move immediately. Signed. Move. Immediately. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't just a celebration. This was a transition. A handover. But no one had told me. Which meant one thing. I wasn't supposed to know. I stepped forward. Just enough for them to notice me. The conversation stopped instantly. Of course it did. Igor turned first. His expression didn't change. That was the problem. No surprise. No discomfort. Just control. Alexander, he said smoothly. Enjoying the evening? I looked at the folder in the woman's hands. Then at him. What's that? I asked. The woman hesitated. Just for a second. Then she closed the folder. Nothing important, she said quickly. Nothing important. At my own opening. With documents. I nodded slowly. Of course. Nothing important. I turned slightly, like I was about to walk away. Then stopped. And who are you? I asked her. She hesitated again. Longer this time. That was enough. Igor stepped in. Just a consultant, he said. Helping us with some formalities. Us. Not me. Not all of us. Us. That word landed harder than the insult outside. I looked around the table again. At the suits. At the folder. At Igor. Everything suddenly aligned. Too clean. Too prepared. Too quiet. This wasn't an opening. It was the final step of something that had already been planned. Without me. I gave a small nod. Polite. Controlled. Of course, I said. Wouldn't want to interrupt. I stepped away. But this time, I didn't feel confused. I felt certain. There was paperwork I hadn't seen. Deals I hadn't approved. Moves being made behind my back. And whatever was about to happen. Was going to happen tonight. The only question was. What exactly were they trying to take? And why did they all look so sure? That I couldn't stop them. I didn't confront them. Not yet. If there's one thing I learned in business. It's this. People reveal more when they think you're blind. So I stepped outside. Quietly. No announcements. No attention. The night air felt colder than it should have. I pulled out my phone. Not to call anyone. To check something. The building. This place wasn't just a restaurant. It was a commercial asset. Registered. Structured. Protected. By me. Or at least, it was supposed to be. I opened the property records. Access I never gave up. Never. Even when I funded everything. Even when I trusted them. Because trust doesn't replace control. The file loaded. Slow. For a second, nothing seemed wrong. Ownership structure. Holding company. Standard. Then I saw it. A recent amendment. 3 weeks ago. I hadn't signed anything 3 weeks ago. My fingers stopped. I opened the document. And there it was. My name. My signature. Perfect. Clean. Exactly how I sign. Except. I didn't. I read it again. Transfer of operational control. Expanded financial authority. Authorization for leveraged borrowing. Borrowing. I scrolled further. My chest didn't tighten. It went still. That's worse. Loan approval. Pre-authorized. Secured against the building. The building I paid for. The building I still legally owned. On paper. But functionally. No longer under my control. I looked at the date again. 3 weeks. That meant this wasn't impulsive. This wasn't emotional. This was planned. Prepared. Executed step by step. I zoomed in on the signature. Every line correct. Every detail precise. Someone had copied it perfectly. Or had access to documents they shouldn't. I locked the phone for a moment. Then unlocked it again. Rechecked. No mistake. No misunderstanding. They had used me. Not just financially. Legally. That explained everything. The confidence. The laughter. The way Igor looked at me. Like I didn't matter anymore. Because in his mind. I didn't. He thought the building was already his. I went back to the live data. Bank linkage. Loan provider. Amount. I paused there. Read it twice. Then a third time. 7 figures. Not small. Not cautious. Aggressive. Reckless. The kind of loan you take when you think you've already won. I exhaled slowly. No anger. Not yet. Just clarity. Inside that building. They weren't celebrating success. They were celebrating control. Control they thought they had already taken from me. And suddenly, everything made sense. The consultant with the folder. The quiet conversations. The phrase I heard at the bar. After tonight, it won't matter. They weren't talking about the party. They were talking about me. About the moment I would officially become irrelevant. I leaned back against the car. Closed my eyes for a second. Not to calm down. To calculate. If the documents were filed. Then they had already moved forward. Which meant. There were deadlines. Signatures pending. Triggers waiting to activate. And if I walked back in there blindly. They would finish it. Right in front of me. With my own money. I opened my eyes. Looked at the building again. Lights. Music. Laughter. All of it built on something they thought I didn't understand. That was their mistake. They thought I was just the one who paid. They forgot who designed the system. And systems don't collapse by accident. They collapse when someone knows exactly where to apply pressure. I unlocked my phone again. Scrolled to a contact I hadn't used in months. Then stopped. Not yet. Timing matters. Instead, I did something simpler. I opened the backup archive. Every contract. Every version. Every clause. Stored. Indexed. Protected. I searched for one specific file. The original agreement. The one they clearly assumed didn't matter anymore. It opened instantly. And when I saw it, I smiled. Just slightly. Because they didn't remove it. They didn't even notice it. The clause was still there. Buried. Ignored. Powerful. I locked my phone. Straightened my jacket. And looked back at the door. They thought they had already taken everything. They thought the game was over. But now I knew the truth. This wasn't their victory. This was the moment. They walked straight into a trap they didn't even know existed. I walked back inside. Same music. Same laughter. But now. I saw everything differently. Not a celebration. A setup. I moved slowly through the room again. No one noticed the change. They never do. Until it's too late. My eyes found my daughter. Marina. She stood near the main table, talking to guests. Smiling. Warm. Natural. The same smile she had as a child. For a second. I almost believed it again. That this was just a misunderstanding. That I was overthinking. That she didn't know. But then she turned. And her eyes met Igor's. Just for a moment. A small nod. Almost invisible. But I saw it. And something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter. Final. I walked toward her. She noticed me immediately. Of course she did. Her posture changed. Not fear. Readiness. Dad, she said softly. Are you enjoying everything? Enjoying. That word felt strange now. I heard something earlier, I said. Her smile didn't disappear. But it stopped reaching her eyes. What do you mean? She asked. Careful. Measured. Like she had rehearsed this. I heard Igor call me a temporary wallet. Silence. Not loud. But heavy. For a second, she didn't answer. Then she sighed. A small one. Like she was tired. Tato, she said quietly. You shouldn't have been standing outside listening. Not denial. Not shock. Just inconvenience. Like I had broken a rule. I looked at her. Really looked. Is it true? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. She glanced around. Checking who might hear. Then leaned slightly closer. Her voice dropped. You're taking it too personally. That was it. That was the moment. Not the words. Not the insult. That. Cold. Controlled. Dismissive. You funded this, yes, she continued. But it's not like you're losing anything. Not losing anything. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pain. Pressure. You have more than enough, she added. This is just redistribution. Redistribution. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was precise. She had already justified it. In her mind. This wasn't betrayal. It was fairness. I stepped back slightly. Gave her space. Did you sign anything? I asked. Her eyes flickered. There it was. Small. But real. What are you talking about? She said. Too fast. I held her gaze. 3 weeks ago, I said calmly. Documents. Authorization. Control. Now the smile was gone. Completely. For the first time. She looked unsure. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Just, exposed. You went through the records, she asked. No apology. No explanation. Just that. Yes, I said. She exhaled slowly. Then straightened. And something changed. The softness disappeared. What stood in front of me now was not my daughter. It was a partner. Someone who had made a decision. And was standing by it. You wouldn't understand, she said quietly. I built this for you, I replied. No, she said. You built it your way. That hit harder than anything else. Years. Work. Sacrifice. All reduced to your way. We're doing things differently now, she continued. Faster. Smarter. Without waiting for approval. Without me. I nodded slowly. And alone? I asked. Silence again. This time longer. She looked away first. That was the answer. You used the building, I said. We leveraged it, she corrected. Correction. Not denial. We needed capital, she added. And you wouldn't have agreed. She was right. I wouldn't have. Because it was reckless. Because it was illegal. Because it put everything at risk. And they knew it. That's why they didn't ask. You forged my signature, I said. She didn't react. Not shocked. Not offended. Just quiet. I didn't forge anything, she said. Carefully. Technically. You authorized us to operate. That was the line. The justification. Twisted just enough to sound reasonable. We expanded that authority, she added. Expanded. I looked at her. At the person I raised. And realized. This wasn't manipulation. Not just Igor. She chose this. Every step. Every decision. She chose it. Do you even hear yourself? I asked. She met my eyes. Steady. Yes, she said. And in that moment, there was nothing left to misunderstand. No confusion. No doubt. No hope. Just clarity. They didn't think they were wrong. They thought I was. And that was the real betrayal. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. There was nothing left to prove. So I nodded once, and walked away. Marina didn't stop me. That told me everything. If she thought I still had power, she would have. I moved through the room slowly. Same faces. Same smiles. But now I knew exactly what I was looking at. Not partners. Not guests. Witnesses. People who believed the outcome was already decided. That the building had changed hands. That I was irrelevant. I stepped outside again. Closed the door behind me. The music faded instantly. Silence. That's where decisions are made. Not in noise. I took out my phone. This time, I didn't hesitate. I called one number. It rang once. Alexander, the voice said. Calm. Alert. Are you available? I asked. For you. Always. Good, I said. I need you to pull the original agreement on the restaurant. A pause. Then. The one with the protective clause. Yes. Another pause. Shorter. I was wondering when you'd call. Of course he was. People like him always see patterns before others do. Send me the full version, I said. No summaries. You're on site, he asked. Yes. Then don't act yet, he said immediately. If they've already moved on the documents, timing is critical. I know. I'll forward everything in 2 minutes. And Alexander. Yes. If what I think is happening, then they didn't just cross a line. They erased it, I finished. Exactly. The call ended. I stood there, watching the reflection of the lights in the glass. Inside, they were still celebrating. Still confident. Still sure. My phone buzzed. Documents received. I opened them immediately. Original contract. Every clause intact. Every word deliberate. I scrolled slowly. Not reading. Confirming. Then I found it. Buried where most people never look. Not highlighted. Not obvious. But absolute. Conditional control. In case of unauthorized financial leverage. Full operational and asset reversal. Immediate. Irrevocable. No negotiation. I read it twice. Then once more. Still there. Still valid. Still binding. They missed it. Not because it was hidden. Because they didn't understand what they were reading. That's the difference. They saw paper. I saw structure. I closed the document. Locked the phone. And for the first time that night, I allowed myself a breath. Not relief. Precision. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was alignment. Every piece moving into place. I opened my contacts again. Scrolled. Stopped. Another number. This one answered immediately. Alexander. I need execution authority prepared, I said. No explanation. None needed. How fast, he asked. Tonight. A pause. Then. That will be visible. It needs to be. Understood. Full enforcement. Yes. Then once we initiate, there's no reversal. I'm aware. Silence. Then. I'll coordinate. You'll have confirmation within the hour. The call ended. I leaned back against the car. Closed my eyes for a second. Inside, glasses were still clinking. Laughter still rising. They had no idea. Not about the clause. Not about the reversal. Not about what was already moving. They thought the night was theirs. That they had already taken control. But control isn't what you take. It's what you understand. And they didn't understand anything. I opened my eyes. Checked the time. Minutes were passing. Quietly. Like everything important does. Then my phone buzzed again. A single message. Ready. Awaiting your signal. I looked at the building one more time. At the lights. At the people inside. At the illusion. Then I typed one word. Proceed. And put the phone back in my pocket. No anger. No rush. Just certainty. Because from this point on, nothing inside that building belonged to them anymore. They just didn't know it yet. I walked back inside. Nothing had changed. That was the point. They were still laughing. Still drinking. Still celebrating something that no longer existed. I moved through the crowd without stopping. No greetings. No conversations. Just direction. Toward the center of the room. Toward them. Igor noticed me first. Of course he did. He always watched the room. His eyes narrowed slightly. Not fear. Awareness. Alexander, he said, stepping forward. You disappeared. I had to take a call, I replied. He smiled. Polite. Controlled. Business never stops, he said. No, I agreed. It doesn't. For a moment, we just stood there. Two people. Both knowing something the other didn't fully understand. Then my phone vibrated. Once. I didn't take it out. I didn't need to. That was the confirmation. It had started. Across the room, one of the suited men checked his phone. His expression changed. Subtle. But real. He looked at Igor. Not openly. Just enough. Igor noticed. Of course he did. He turned his head slightly. What is it? He asked. The man hesitated. Then leaned in. Whispered something. Igor's smile didn't disappear. But it froze. Just for a second. Then he straightened. Excuse me, he said to me. Of course, I replied calmly. He stepped away quickly. Too quickly. That was the first crack. I stayed where I was. Watching. Waiting. The room hadn't noticed yet. But it would. It always does. Another phone lit up. Then another. Small reactions. Confused looks. Brows tightening. Questions forming. The noise of the room didn't change. But the rhythm did. Something underneath shifted. Like a foundation moving. Igor returned. Faster this time. No smile. Alexander, he said quietly. We need to talk. Now. Not later. Now. I think we already did, I replied. His jaw tightened. This isn't the time for games. No, I said. It's exactly the time. His eyes locked onto mine. Searching. Calculating. Then. What did you do? He asked. There it was. Not denial. Not confusion. Direct. Because he understood. At least part of it. Nothing you didn't prepare for, I said. That hit. I saw it. For the first time, uncertainty. Behind the control. Stop it, he said, voice lower now. You don't understand what's happening. I tilted my head slightly. Don't I? Before he could answer, Marina approached. Fast. Her expression was different now. No warmth. No softness. Tension. Something's wrong, she said quietly to him. I know, he replied. They both looked at me. Together. United. Still. Dad, she said. What's going on? That word. Dad. Sounded different now. Not emotional. Strategic. I looked at her. Calm. The same thing you started 3 weeks ago, I said. Her face changed. Not dramatically. But enough. You accessed the records? She asked. Yes. Igor stepped forward again. You had no right. I had every right, I interrupted. Not loud. But final. Silence fell between us. Then another phone rang. Loud this time. One of the guests answered. What? He said. No, that's not possible. People started noticing. Turning. Listening. The atmosphere shifted. Quickly now. Too quickly to control. Igor took out his phone. Unlocked it. His eyes moved across the screen. And then. There it was. The moment. His expression broke. Just slightly. But enough. What is this? He said under his breath. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He looked up at me. Now there was no control. No confidence. Just pressure. What did you trigger? He demanded. I stepped closer. Not aggressive. Precise. The clause you didn't read, I said. Marina's eyes moved between us. Confusion turning into realization. What clause? She asked. Igor didn't answer her. He was still staring at me. Trying to understand. Trying to calculate. Too late. You leveraged the building, I continued. Without authorization. That's not, he started. It is, I said calmly. And you documented it perfectly. That silence. Spread. Like something breaking under the surface. Phones kept lighting up. Messages coming in. Fast. Systems reacting. Structures shifting. The building hadn't changed. But ownership had. Control had. Everything they thought was theirs. Was already moving away from them. You can't do this, Marina said. Her voice wasn't steady anymore. I looked at her. You already did, I replied. That was the moment it hit her. Not fully. But enough. This wasn't a discussion anymore. It wasn't a negotiation. It was execution. Around us, the room was starting to fragment. Small groups forming. Whispers growing louder. Confusion spreading. The celebration was cracking. And right at the center of it. They were standing there. Finally realizing. This wasn't their night anymore. No one was laughing anymore. The music kept playing. But no one was listening. Phones in hands. Whispers everywhere. Igor stood frozen. Marina looked at me like she was seeing someone else for the first time. "Stop this," she said quietly. "I can't," I replied. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "It's already done." Security entered the room. Not aggressively. Calm. Professional. They walked straight to the bar, then to the main office door. Igor stepped forward. "You can't just walk in there," he said. One of them showed a document. He read it. His face changed again. Worse this time. "It's over," I said. Marina shook her head. "You're destroying everything." I looked around. At the place I built. At the people who thought it was theirs. "No," I said calmly. "I'm restoring it." She didn't answer. Neither did he. There was nothing left to say. I adjusted my jacket. Took one last look at the room. Then walked toward the exit. No one stopped me. Behind me, the night was collapsing. Quietly. Exactly the way it was supposed to. Thank you for listening. Calm justice doesn't shout. It keeps records.